In today's episode of the podcast, we are looking at relationships, the good, the bad, and what the science says. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Live Mindfully with Laurie Moore podcast. I am so happy at the moment with this delightful weather we are having here in Brisbane. The sun is shining brightly, the cold snap has happened, the humidity is gone, and I am feeling so at home right now in this weather. And I hope wherever you are in the world that you can take a moment to appreciate the different seasons and the witnessing of those changes, and where you can align your energy to the season that you are in. So just like Mother Nature, we need periods of inaction and periods of action. And to that end, I thought I would start off today's episode with a little mindfulness practice. And we call this grounding. So my preference here is that you are barefoot, but I appreciate that that may not be possible. So either way, just take your feet and plant them both firmly down on the ground. And lift up the toes and gently place them back down. And if it's safe for you to do so, close down the eyes. And then I want you to feel into your left big toe. And then take your attention to your left second toe, the third left toe, the fourth, and the left little toe. Now switch over to the right foot and feel into the right big toe, the right second toe, the third, the fourth, and the right little toe. Good. And now feel into the whole left foot, and the whole right foot. And take a big breath in through the nose, 2, 3, 4. And exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. And then just notice how you feel. Notice any sensations that are coming up for you. It's interesting, isn't it, when we bring our entire focus into the body and how that can make us feel. Particularly if we have been having a really busy day. And right now might be the very first time today that we have even thought about our body. Yeah, so just try and keep that awareness and that presence in the body as we move through today's episode. So a few weeks ago, a friend called me on my way to school pickup, and this is a really close friend of mine. We've known each other our entire lives, and she is the kind of friend that I could literally say anything to. And I know two things. One, she would never hold whatever I say against me later. And two, she will never repeat it. And Michelle Obama calls these kind of friends in her book, The Light We Carry, your kitchen table friends. And she has 12 of them. But Brené Brown believes that you really need to have at least one or two, and any more than that is just a bonus. And it's a big bonus, but you really don't need to have a lot of these really close friends. And in Michelle Obama's case, she says that these kitchen table friends are the kind of friends she could call on when she was having a really hard week or had a really difficult problem that she needed to solve. And the purpose wasn't to bring these people in and have a roundtable discussion. The purpose, as Michelle puts it, is to go low, to say the worst possible things that are coming up for you in that moment, because in that moment you are angry or sad or frustrated or deeply hurt. They're the kind of things you really shouldn't say. And I say that in air quotes, right? Like they're the kind of things you shouldn't say out loud. But there is a lot of benefit in getting those things out of your head. And the research strongly supports this as well. So there have, of course, been many studies on relationships. And the most important takeaways are these two things. Firstly, we don't have the cognitive processing power to maintain and service a lot of close friendships. And the second, one person cannot be all people to you. And this is true of all primates. We need different people for different things. And that includes in our romantic partner. A lot of us look to our romantic partner to fill all the gaps that different tiers of friends and family should be filling. And unfortunately, instead of going out to these different tiers, we instead get quite upset and sometimes even leave a good relationship because he or she didn't meet our needs. And that's what we say, oh, they didn't meet my needs. And I really remember doing this a lot when I was younger. You fall in love and your whole universe surrounds this person, and all of a sudden every other relationship you have is just background noise. And while that may be fine for the first few months, it's really important to maintain those other key connections, because eventually you are going to feel like this person is not meeting all of your needs. And that's quite simply because they are not supposed to. So this particular study that I've got in the show notes found that the average person has 3 to 5 very close friends, 10 to 15 people in their circle. So you'll note that there are only 3 to 5 that you consider to be very close, and it could be less than that. And I consider these to be the type of friends that you can go really low with, really, really low, and still face them the next day without feeling an ounce of embarrassment. So going back to Michelle Obama in the Netflix special she does with Oprah for this book, The Light We Carry, she would call on her kitchen table friends and sometimes some of her staff too that were very, very close in her inner circle, and she would let loose on the things that were really frustrating her. And you can only imagine how some of those conversations would go when her husband was president, right? And she would say that some of the things that she would say around this kitchen table were presidential ending statements that if she actually said them out loud and in public would end her husband's career. And then she would finish up by saying it'd be great because then we could all just go home. And God, I remember when I worked in retail and colleagues and I used to joke about how good it would be if there was like a day, just one day a year where you could say whatever you wanted to some of the customers without getting fired, because some people in that setting can be so, so rude. So I really resonated when I heard her say that. But let's just take a minute right now and think of who those people might be in your network. And you know, this could be and probably should include your partner if you have one, and could even include an appropriate family member. And what I mean by that is it should not be your 13-year-old daughter, for example, but just have a think about who those people, those 3 to 5 or less, are in your circle. And then send them a little love, because there is so much value in having 1 or 2, or as Michelle does, 12 people in your circle who you can call and say presidential career-ending statements to. Statements that you know are not going to be repeated, statements you know are not going to be thrown back in your face at some later stage, and especially statements that you know aren't going to be challenged. Because the person you're saying them to knows in their heart it's not actually how you feel. You don't want someone in that moment when you are offloading and blowing off steam to start challenging you. You want to know that They know that in that moment, it's just how you feel, and that right now you just need to get those statements out of your head. And what's really powerful is that having people in your inner circle, your closest mates who provide you with quality friendship, people who are kind and compassionate, people who value your time, respect your boundaries, people who are honest and fun to be around, and people who listen and inspire you. These kinds of people in your inner circle improve your health just by being friends with you. And these studies have found that on nearly every level, physical and social connection was just as important as diet and exercise when it comes to our health. Now, there is a disclaimer here. They need to be people who inspire you to be a better version of yourself. So if you have fat-shaming friends, you need to replace them with friends who support you, friends who love you, and friends who want to lift you up and not bring you down. So I just want to put that in a different light for a second, because the 10 to 15 people in our circle and then the 100 to 150 people that we classify as acquaintances, we need to be realistic here. And the science says that we're not physically capable of maintaining social connection with more than this. We don't have time, energy, or resources. And truthfully, we also don't need to have that many friends. This is a debate about quality over quantity. The research also shows that those who have a lot of casual relationships are not as fulfilled and happy as those who maintain smaller but deeper connections. And we also want to address the social media connections, which again, most of these will fall into the acquaintance bucket at best. And unfortunately, even with us all connecting online, in general, we are still recording higher and higher levels of social disengagement, loneliness, weight gain, depression, and substance abuse. Now, this is no surprise. I doubt anybody is listening right now and going, oh my God, what? Like, I'm so shocked. So we can't maintain a close relationship online only, but we can definitely use it to sieve out the potential for quality relationships. And if you are listening right now and you are just in a plateau in terms of really good quality friendships, and it happens, as we enter new phases of our lives or move, we can lose connection with previously really close friends. And instead of looking at this as a negative, use social media to connect with potential new friends and then grow that relationship offline. And these relationships become even more important as we age, these close relationships. So I know this because I'm in this phase right now, but it's like I have been in hibernation for the past 8 years since having children. And I genuinely do feel like I have been in survival mode. So maintaining friendships when I had all this additional stuff going on, that didn't seem that important. But as we age, maintaining connection and close relationships with our closest inner circle is so important. So if, like me, you've been in that period where you have just had babies and some of your relationships have kind of fallen away, that's okay. But once you start to make your way out of that period in your life and you're getting a little bit older, it's really important to place that focus back on developing, maintaining relationships. So a Harvard study of adult development, which was started in 1939, tracked Harvard graduates and Boston men and found over the 80 years that the only factor that they could correlate with happiness was the quality of the human relationships that they had. And this impacted on their health. In fact, they found that those who had the most satisfaction in their friendships at age 50 were the healthiest and happiest at age 80, 30 years later. And the thing about having these close friends is that you may not even know that you need them until you do. And that's exactly what happened to me. My friend called me to check in, and admittedly, we hadn't spoken on the phone for about 6 weeks. And I start telling her that everything is good and going really well. And she says, well, that's good. How are the kids? And I say, yeah, the kids are good. Well, actually, Maddie's been really sick. And well, Flynn's doing this weird thing where he wakes up in the middle of the night. And then out of nowhere comes this entire story about how bad my whole week has actually been, and that actually, if I really think about it, the month hasn't been that great either. And I start saying, because this happened, I'm really angry about this, and then this happened, and I'm so, PO'd about that, and this person said this thing to me, and I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now and exhausted. And some days I really hate all of the responsibility that I have, and there isn't enough time in my day, and I'm so sick of everyone being so reliant on me. And on I went. And she stayed on the line with me for 30 minutes while I just basically projectile vomited all of this negativity over her. And she did, and she said all the right things. Oh, I hear you, babe. Yes, it's so annoying. Oh, that is not okay. Oh, I cannot believe it. Oh, good on you, babe. I would have said the same. And she said, I know how you feel. Kids can be so hard and challenging sometimes, and I've had that happen to me too. And I get to the end of this surprising rant, and I say, wow, okay, I actually thought I was okay. I really didn't realize I needed to get all of that off my chest. And she says, well, that's what I'm here for. And I know that many of you listening, you know that feeling of being able to say whatever you want to someone and know that they can hold space for you and not offer advice and not make you feel bad or not even try to make you feel better. There is such a relief when someone just listens, and a weight that comes off your shoulders when you're able to let all that hot air out of your body. It makes every single problem you have seem surmountable and figure outable, and you know you can handle everything that life throws at you. And the truth is, we can't expect everyone to do this for us, and we're also not able to do this for everyone. In fact, I know that there are several people I couldn't do this for because I'm either too invested, or it's the same old story I've been hearing for 20 years, or I don't have the time and energy to hold that space. And maybe it's a person who just triggers me for one reason or another. But that's the best part. The best part is we don't need to do this for everyone in our lives, and we shouldn't expect everyone in our lives to do this for us. We only need a small amount of people to do this kind of offloading too. Because if we start utilizing everybody, even the 10 to 15 people in our inner circle, so not in those closest circle, but in our inner circle, if we start offloading to everybody, we can also become attached to our story. And when that starts to happen, we're no longer offloading to make ourselves feel better. We're actually simply trying to reinforce a position, which in the long term makes us feel worse, because we turn to a lot of different people, not for their friendship, but for their confirmation and reassurance. And when we don't get it, because you won't get it from every person that you go and share your story with, then that's like another arrow into the soul. And we also want to be mindful how often we are unloading and what we're unloading about, because if there is a recurring theme, then maybe it's not a kitchen table thing. Maybe this is something that is really bothering you, and perhaps you need to actually address it more than simply sharing it. But in those moments when it all feels like it's going wrong and you feel like you are drowning and have lost complete perspective of what matters, there is nothing more valuable than a really, really good friend with a sympathetic ear who says all of the right things. So if you don't know who that person is for you, spend some time thinking about who within your friendship circle it could be. Or start to open up a little bit more with some of your friends around you and deepen a connection with one of them. And I think it can be very helpful if you are also able to hold space for that same person. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If it has resonated, please share it across your socials or with your inner circle of family and friends. Until next week, take good care of yourself.